Well, Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has a new crisis on her hands. She's being booted out of her home. Fox 32 has obtained copies of an eviction notice filed in Cook County Court against Henyard and her boyfriend.
Tiffany Henyard has reportedly panicked after receiving a severe warning from a judge. Henyard appeared in court on Thursday to face charges related to unlawful appointments she made for various village positions. One of these appointees was Ron Burse Sr., a former Dixmoor police chief and Henyard's opponent in the 2021 mayoral election. Last month, a judge issued a temporary restraining order preventing Henyard from making appointments without trustee approval. The mayor was warned that allowing any of her appointees to appear at Village Hall could result in her being charged with contempt of court. Although the court declined to fine her in contempt on Thursday, the judge warned her that further disobedience could lead to such charges. Tiffany Henyard is considered one of the most controversial mayors in American history, a reputation that has followed her for some time. Accusations of misusing taxpayer funds have loomed over her tenure, with growing evidence against her. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, commissioned by the village board to review Henyard's financial management, revealed alarming financial mismanagement. Lightfoot reported that Dalton's general fund, which had a $5.6 million balance in April 2022, had dropped to a $3.65 million deficit by May 2024. Further concerns were raised when it was disclosed that Henyard allegedly used the village's credit card for personal purchases at retailers like Amazon, Target, and Walgreens. Henyard has also been accused of spending taxpayer money on personal luxuries, including resurfacing her mother's driveway with $561,000 in public funds. In a recent development, Henyard has reportedly disappeared following an FBI visit. The agents arrived with a list of her alleged corrupt activities, requesting personnel and disciplinary files for 29 Dalton employees and information on contracts involving her top aide, Keith Freeman. Henyard made history in 2021 as the youngest and first female mayor of Dalton, and in 2022, she became Thornton Township Supervisor after the death of longtime leader Frank Zuccarelli. However, her leadership, initially met with optimism, soon took a controversial turn. Allegations of corruption and irresponsibility have overshadowed her tenure, turning what once appeared to be a promising political career into one tainted by controversy. Her name remains in the spotlight, but now for all the wrong reasons. Tiffany has been accused of exploiting taxpayer funds for personal gain for far too long, indulging in lavish expenses such as chartering private jets, employing a large personal security detail, and even covering the costs of her hairstylist. Her extravagant spending shows no limits. A notable example is a 5-day trip to Austin in July 2023, where she was accompanied by her top aide, Keith Freeman, and 3 township officials. This trip cost the taxpayers of Dalton over $20,000. The expenses included $1,699 at the upscale Fairmont Austin Hotel, $389 at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, $503 on sports gear, and $413 at a local Walgreens. The exact purpose of this trip remains unclear, with vague explanations of conference attendance.
Unquestionable spending by a South suburban politician named Tiffany Henyard. But we only knew half the story because we only had records from one of the 2 governments she runs. Now
being offered. Trustee Jason House has criticized her for these luxury vacations with village staff, pointing out that the village is sinking deeper into multi-million-dollar debt. Driven by a sense of urgency, Jason has declared his candidacy for Dalton's 2025 mayoral race, stating that the current mayor's leadership has only worsened the town's problems. Among these issues are unresolved licensing disputes, which have forced several businesses to close. One such business is Lawrence Gardner Trucking, which has been idle since January 2023 after being accused by the village of illegally selling liquor at an event. Though a judge ruled in Gardner's favor. He suspects there are other reasons behind the village's actions. Gardner is one of several business owners who, after Mayor Henyard took office, complied with her request for a $3,500 donation to the village. While the FBI has not confirmed any investigation into the mayor, Gardner claims to have been in contact with federal agents for months. Growing dissatisfaction with Tiffany Henyard's policies has led many residents and business owners to voice concerns about her leadership. Trustee Kiana Belcher has also raised alarms about the significant financial mismanagement, stating, "We are simply seeking transparency so we can move forward and get a clear understanding of where all this spending is going." Dalton Board of Trustees member Bert Oldson expressed his shock, calling the loss of 6 police vehicles a significant error. He emphasized that losing police cars also means losing officers. Despite this, Oldson noted that Tiffany prioritized payments for her personal security detail. Recently, residents of Thornton Township rallied to demand Tiffany Henyard's resignation and a thorough investigation into her financial dealings. The rally, called the Take Our Township Back protest, highlighted the community's frustration with the lack of transparency and accountability regarding the use of tax dollars. Residents were further angered by the fact that Henyard removed other township officials from authorizing expenditures, leaving herself as the sole signatory. This move has been perceived by many as calculated, leading to increased public outrage over her erratic behavior. Henyard has strongly denied most of the accusations, claiming she has evidence to justify her decisions, though she reluctantly admitted to some allegations when they were impossible to refute. To many in the township, accountability seems to be an unfamiliar concept for Henyard. While the accusations vary, her consistent defiance and disregard for responsibility have cast her
Taxpayer dollars and resources, including massive spending on out-of-town trips, hundreds of thousands of dollars in police overtime for her personal security detail, using public employees
in a troubling light with each new scandal. In March 2024, Henyard faced scrutiny after being accused of misappropriating $67,000 in taxpayer funds for extended travel. In response, the Dalton Board launched an investigation, requesting financial records from the village and involving the FBI to clarify the situation. Rather than address the claims, Henyard accused the board, referred to as the Boys Club, of obstructing her work and personally targeting her. She issued a veto, framing the situation as a biased attack on her character. During a village board meeting, Henyard remarked, "As you can see, our village, our community, and I are under siege." She lamented that attendees only hear one side of the story. Henyard also admitted to a $2 million deficit at Village Hall, which added to the complexity of the issues. At a subsequent board meeting, members revealed that the financial shortfall was significantly larger than Henyard had previously acknowledged. Former trustee Edward Steve commented that while the mayor might blame others for the current situation, she must ultimately reflect on her own role. Tiffany has been accused of using her power to stifle opposition, allegedly targeting those who express dissent. A notable example is former village trustee Valeria Stubbs, who faced severe repercussions after publicly criticizing Tiffany. 2 of Stubbs' tenants had their cars shot at by an assailant supposedly hired by Tiffany. Stubbs also alleged that Henyard had formed strategic alliances with the police to ensure that any complaints against her would be ignored. Tensions rose further when Henyard's former assistant spoke out, accusing her of self-serving behavior. The assistant claimed she was mistreated by a trustee on Henyard's board and was told by Tiffany not to make the issue public to protect Tiffany's reputation. Despite filing a complaint and receiving assurances of support from the mayor, the assistant was placed on unpaid medical leave without warning and later dismissed. A similar situation occurred with Henyard's former maintenance manager, Dwayne Thrash, who filed a lawsuit against the mayor. He alleged that he was fired while on vacation for refusing to participate in a plot led by Tiffany and her assistant to replace an attorney with one favored by the mayor's aide. Tensions became more apparent in public settings, with Henyard displaying impatience during board meetings, suggesting growing chaos. In one notable incident, residents filled a Park District meeting room, vocally opposing their mayor during a special meeting of the Thornton Township trustees, which was suddenly canceled. Despite the absence of the 5 trustees, Henyard addressed the public in what was more of a monologue, stating, "I am here to discuss some matters, but there will be no comments or questions. This is solely my time to inform you about what's happening. If you wish to leave, you may do so. This is my statement, and if you don't want to hear it, there's the door." Henyard's approach to board meetings has recently taken an unconventional turn, using them as a platform for her personal style. In one memorable incident, she attended a meeting dressed in a costume inspired by Nino Brown, the iconic character from New Jack City. This eccentric approach has sparked public debate about her dedication to her role as mayor, leaving many to question whether she takes her responsibilities seriously amid her whimsical fashion choices. Trustee Kiana Belcher voiced concerns over how recent events have made politics appear farcical.
Everything went exactly how I expected, or we expected. We went in the meeting and her goal was to veto it. So she vetoed it, and now we have to wait to the next meeting.
Especially in light of Henyard's behavior and attire at board meetings. Nino Brown's statement underscores the mocking tone often seen in political discourse, yet the situation is far from resolved. During a recent hearing, Trustee Carmen openly criticized Henyard, accusing her of unethical and predatory actions during her tenure as supervisor of Thornton Township and mayor of Dalton. In a statement to WGN, Carmen alleged that over the past 2 years, Henyard has abused her authority to manipulate residents, employees, and vendors to expand her influence. At a board meeting, Carmen accused Henyard of presenting a false image of success funded by the taxpayers of Thornton Township and Dalton. She admitted she had rarely questioned the extravagant trips and expenses charged to the township's taxpayers. In response, Carmen and her colleagues voted to enforce stricter spending regulations for special events and to limit access to credit cards. However, these issues only scratched the surface. The troubles date back to August 2019, when CBS 2 Chicago reported serious concerns with a property owned by Henyard, which received Section 8 housing subsidies. The property was riddled with problems, including severe mold and water leaks. Tenant Jacqueline Smith has struggled with mold in her Dalton rental home, which has spread to her daughter's shoes and the house's exterior. By November 2019, the property was deemed uninhabitable, forcing Smith to vacate. Despite this, Henyard allegedly continued to accept Section 8 payments as if the property was livable. When confronted by the tenant over the mold, the situation attracted media attention, leading to further investigation into the property inspections. Amid these controversies, Henyard ran for mayor in October 2020, launching fierce criticisms against then-Mayor Riley Rogers and his administration. In a competitive primary, Henyard won the Democratic nomination and went on to secure a landslide victory in the general election, receiving 82% of the vote against her opponent, Ronnie Burge. Many hailed Henyard as a trailblazer, recognizing her as the first Black American woman to serve as mayor. Tiffany relied on this narrative to defend herself for as long as she could, but eventually people started seeing her true self rather than the image she had projected. It's disgraceful to witness a group of Black individuals united to criticize and attack a Black woman in power, Henyard shouted during a February trustees meeting. Over the past year, Tiffany had several conflicts with members of the village's Board of Trustees, creating a tense atmosphere. Initially, trustees Kiana Belair and Jason House, along with village clerk Allison Key, supported her, but their relationship soon deteriorated. This led to a coalition within the board aimed at taking legal action against Tiffany. Her team experienced only a brief period of harmony, lasting about 6 months. During this turbulent time, her trustees accused her of mismanaging municipal funds, which led to rumors and caused the public to reconsider their support. By April 2022, the village board had sued Tiffany, accusing her of corruption in the handling of tax funds. In response, Tiffany adopted a victim narrative, claiming the trustees were conspiring against her. She further escalated the situation by locking the trustees out of their offices and displaying their confidential documents in public areas, invading their privacy and creating further chaos. As tensions rose, board meetings became heated, with Tiffany consistently denying the allegations despite substantial evidence against her. I wouldn't believe a word from this woman. Even if she stood on a mountain of Bibles and had her tongue notarized, one resident expressed in an interview with Fox 32. It's heartbreaking to see her come into our town and waste our tax dollars, especially when some of our senior citizens can't afford basic necessities, the resident added. Another resident remarked during public comments, "I suspected this all along. This administration is a disgrace," and noted that the community eagerly awaits its downfall. The steady stream of accusations has forced Tiffany into hiding, despite initial support from many. However, she quickly dashed their hopes within months. Even in her absence, the community continues to demand accountability and calls for law enforcement to take action. Many feel betrayed, with some strongly advocating for her immediate incarceration. The extent of tax funds she is accused of misusing for personal gain, seemingly without concern for her constituents, is staggering. What are your thoughts on this situation? At first, Tiffany Henyard was not expected to take on the role of supervisor for Thornton Township. The 60-day deadline for the trustees to appoint a new supervisor following Frank's passing seemed extremely short, leading to a chaotic situation. After an extended process, Tiffany Henyard emerged as the 9th candidate and was elected as the new supervisor of Thornton Township. When Tiffany was elected, no one in the room anticipated she would take on the role, as the decision largely rested with the trustees, not the voters. Even Tiffany herself was surprised by the outcome. During one of her early board meetings, she pledged to the residents of Thornton Township, the elected officials, the Board of Trustees, and the staff that they would work diligently together for an honest and responsible fiscal year.
Tiffany Henyard in court today over illegal appointments she allegedly made for several positions inside the village, among them chief of police. Last month, the judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking her from making those appointments without approval from trustees.
She also committed to remembering her role as a public servant, always prioritizing the needs of the people. Known as the People's Trustee, she now proudly served as the people's mayor and supervisor. However, by the second meeting, Tiffany's demeanor began to shift. She dismissed 2 employees, one from the Human Resources Department and the other a former executive assistant to Frank Zuccarelli. These firings seem to result from unclear communication rather than specific issues. Additionally, the previous administration had incurred significant expenses during a retreat at the Eaglewood Resort and Spa. When the trustees questioned these costs, Tiffany expressed her disapproval, stating she supported the idea of a retreat, but would not tolerate using taxpayer funds for personal luxuries like spa treatments. She criticized the use of taxpayer money for such services, vowing it wouldn't happen under her supervision. While this stance might have earned her some respect, it became controversial when she went on to renovate her mansion and her mother's house using public funds. The public quickly noticed the hypocrisy, and now many are calling for Tiffany to be held accountable. Whether she will offer a defense or finally confront her actions remains uncertain, but her attempts to evade responsibility are becoming more apparent. Her actions have not only complicated matters for herself, but for others as well. However, this evasion may not last, as the world has become aware of her conduct and the legacy of her tenure. Stay tuned for updates, and we'll catch you in the next one.